All right, welcome to the Weekly Dose. Today, we are diving deep into a new report from Augusta Global Insights. Now, full disclosure, we've used AI to help us summarize their incredibly detailed analysis, pulling out the absolute must-know insights for you. So let's get right into it.
So what's the big story? Well, this report connects two massive forces that honestly seem like they're from completely different worlds, but they are colliding right now, and the collision is shaking the very foundations of tech and finance. You can think of it like a perfect storm, one brewing in the credit markets and another, a hurricane, just tearing through the software industry. And they're about to meet.
So, here's our game plan. First up, we're going to look at the cracks starting to show in the credit markets. Then, we'll introduce you to the AI god of war that's causing chaos in the software world. We'll see what happens when these two storms smash into each other, check in on the market reality, figure out the winners and losers, and then we'll wrap it all up with your key takeaways.
Okay, let's talk about that first storm. It's been gathering pretty quietly in a corner of the financial world we call private credit. But last week, we saw the first very real flash of lightning.
This quote from Bloomberg really nails it. Blue Owl Capital, which is a huge player in private credit, that's basically loans outside of traditional banks, suddenly had to tell its investors, sorry, you can't have your money back right now. This sent a massive shockwave through the markets because it exposed a deep crack in what everyone thought was a rock-solid system.
And believe me, this wasn't just some scary headline. It had real teeth. Look at this number. That is Blue Owl Capital's stock performance this year. A drop of almost 25%. That's billions in value just gone. It shows you just how spooked investors really are.
So how in the world did this happen? Well, it comes down to something called a BDC, a business development company. Basically, these things are set up specifically to funnel cash to smaller and, let's be honest, often much riskier companies. The Blue Owl fund that hit a wall? Yep, it was a BDC, and its problems are a major warning sign for the entire private credit market.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. This diagram shows a hidden pipeline for risk in our whole financial system. You'd think after 2008, the big regulated banks would stay a million miles away from super risky loans, right? Well, they do, kinda. Instead of lending directly to a shaky startup, they lend billions to private credit firms like Blue Owl. And what do those firms do? They turn right around and lend that exact same money to unproven AI companies. The big banks are still on the hook. They're just one step removed from the explosion.
You know, it brings to mind that classic Warren Buffett quote. For years, low interest rates and easy money made the private credit market feel like one big party. But with firms like Blue Owl starting to stumble, it feels like the tide is finally starting to go out. And we're all about to see who is taking on way too much risk.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about that second storm. This one isn't brewing in finance, it's deep in the heart of the tech world. It's an AI called Claude from a company named ANTHROPIC, and it's acting less like a helpful assistant and more like an absolute wrecking ball.
The report gives this AI an incredible nickname, Kratos, after the god of war. And why? Because Claude isn't just another software update. No, it's a force that is systematically taking apart the business models of huge established software giants, one by one.
Let me give you a perfect example. For decades, a massive chunk of IBM's business has come from maintaining ancient COBOL code. We're talking about a programming language from the 1950s that still runs our global banking and airline systems. It's been a nightmare to replace, which has basically been a protective moat around IBM's castle. Well, guess what? Claude can now automatically rewrite and modernize that exact code. It's like it drained IBM's moat overnight.
And the impact is just immediate. This number, $20 billion, that is how much market value was erased from the cybersecurity giant CrowdStrike in just 2 days. Why? Anthropic announced an AI tool that could automate the exact kind of security work that is CrowdStrike's entire business. A multi-billion-dollar company suddenly put on notice.
So, on one side, we have a shaky credit system. On the other, we have a hugely disruptive AI. And that brings us to the absolute core of this report. What happens when these two monster storms finally collide in the impact zone?
And this right here is the critical question. Remember all those risky clients that private credit has been funding? A huge number of them are software companies, the kind with sky-high valuations but often zero profits. So what happens when an AI like Claude comes along and makes their whole business model worthless overnight? Suddenly, their ability to repay billions of dollars in loans just evaporates. And that's how a crack in the system becomes a full-blown collapse.
Look, this isn't just some theoretical threat anymore. The anxiety out there is real. Some of the biggest names in finance are sounding the alarm bells. So the big question for everyone is this just a temporary panic, or are we watching a permanent fundamental shift?
And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at who is issuing these warnings. Bain Capital, a titan of private equity, is saying that conditions right now are worse than they were in the 2008 crisis. And then you have Jamie Dimon, the CEO of America's largest bank, saying he sees direct parallels to what led up to that crash. When these two are worried, everybody should be paying very close attention.
But while there's a lot of panic, there's also opportunity. In any massive disruption, value doesn't just vanish, it moves. So where's all this energy and capital actually going? Well, according to the report, it's flowing out of the digital world and into the physical one.
Here's the key insight. The AI revolution runs on real-world stuff. AI needs a physical home, right? That means a massive build-out of data centers. Building those centers requires enormous amounts of materials, like copper. Powering them takes a truly staggering amount of electricity, which, in turn, drives demand for energy, including coal. The value is shifting from intangible lines of software code to the very tangible, physical infrastructure that makes AI possible. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, connecting a crisis in credit with the AI revolution. Let's boil all this down to the absolute essentials you need to remember.
So here are the 3 big takeaways. Number 1, AI isn't just another cool feature, it's a tidal wave that is fundamentally changing the value of the entire software industry. 2, that $2 trillion private credit market that funded the tech boom, it's basically a hidden vulnerability, a house of cards. And 3, these two forces are colliding right now, creating a perfect storm of risk and opportunity.
Now, if you want to go even deeper on this, we have linked to the full original report from Augusta Global Insights right in the description below. I seriously recommend you check it out.
And so I will leave you with this final thought. Are we just watching another blip of market volatility, or are we actually witnessing the fundamental rules of technology and finance being completely rewritten right before our eyes? That is the multi-trillion-dollar question this report leaves us with.